All right, welcome to the Armchair Commanders podcast. My name is John,
And I'm Jack.
and
Levi.
this week, thanks. There we go. It's almost like you never listened to this.
No, my bad.
We're joined by friend of the podcast, Levi. Hi, Levi.
And
Hey, I'm Levi.
the world's youngest Vietnam War veteran. He was
Yeah.
there.
What were you like -7 when it happened?
Yeah, I got my leg shot off.
Oh man, I'm so sorry. You're very spry for someone with no legs, I gotta say.
Well, the VA is really good. That's what a lot of people say. Anyways, the VA is like really good at taking care of vets.
Anyways, what do you actually do, Levi?
Right now, I work at a place called Daktronics. I make electronics. I mean, if the name didn't give it away, but yeah.
Electronics and electronics accessories, right?
Essentially, yeah. But I've been working there for about 2 years now, going to school for electronics engineering technologies, so probably just going to stay there for a while.
That sounds fair enough. Which makes our choice of Platoon all the more interesting this week. What made you want to join us for this particular film?
Well, I mean, I was in the Guard, so like everything about the Army interests me. I mean, the Vietnam War, there was a lot of stuff we still don't understand about it. So the whole Vietnam era is just, it intrigues me, I guess. So like Platoon, it's a classic movie. There's a lot of crazy scenes, and then Taylor. I don't know. The morality of man comes into play for that movie quite a bit, so it's really intriguing. Plus, like I said, Vietnam.
Fair enough. Jack, this was your movie choice this week. What made you choose this film?
It's one of my favorite war movies. And me and Levi watched it together one of the 4 or 5 times I've seen this movie.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
When did you guys watch it?
Oh, years ago, back when we were in high school.
Yeah.
Man,
I thought you were going to say like, "Oh, we watched it this morning." Thanks for the invite, guys.
Yo, you didn't get the memo?
No.
Good.
So when's the last time you had seen it?
Yesterday.
Yeah. Right on.
Before that.
Probably would have been about 10 years ago.
Yeah, same.
So it'd been a minute. What I will say though is, obviously I texted you this, but for those at home, I went and saw the new Willy Wonka movie yesterday. Like had dinner and then went home and watched Platoon, and I gotta say, my brain was, by the end of the day, I was not doing okay.
both movies that had to do something with Charlie.
Yeah, from the chocolate factory straight to the jungles.
That's the thing. There was no Charlie in this one. It's like a prequel.
Oh, right. But
oh yeah,
but it was both of those films are a roller coaster of emotions. So
yeah, as we all know, the Vietnam War is the war that pushed the Oompa Loompas out of their homeland and into indentured servitude in United Kingdom under the vicious chocolate baron. It's really an interesting story. I think Dan Carlin has an episode on it.
Yeah, I especially like when he talks about the vernicious canids.
I think it's alluded to in the movie when Sergeant Barnes chucks a white phosphorus around down a spider hole and burns out a couple of Oompa Loompas.
I was wondering why this movie was so green.
You lie! As he has a pistol on one of their heads.
What did Oliver Stone when he had that Oompa Loompa run into that field op base and blow up?
They were committed. Man, they just wanted some. They just wanted some chocolate, man.
They're sort of human beings, man.
I don't even. I don't even think chocolate is grown in Vietnam, but they wanted cocoa beans, man.
I feel like Vietnam would be like an environment where cocoa could thrive because
To Google.
doesn't cocoa usually stay in kind of like more humid climates anyways?
Where
Yes,
is
but there's also other variables, right? Does Vietnam have chocolate? Grow cocoa.
I pretty much only know it for rice, like everybody else.
Right now, Vietnam is only producing between 2 and 3,000 tons of cocoa per year, so that's basically nothing. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
but that
It's
still
something, I
goes to
guess.
show that they can.
I mean, that's probably why they couldn't find
Yeah.
a lot of work in the chocolate area. But man,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
way too
because
committed to this bit.
okay, Jack. As we like to start, what'd you think?
I love this movie. Keith David. I forgot Forrest Whitaker was in this.
Yeah, there's so many big names in this film that you keep like in the first like 20 minutes of this film, you keep going like, oh, it's that guy.
Yeah, Dr. Cox was in this movie.
Yeah, it's honestly pretty insane just how many big name actors are in this movie. The entire platoon is essentially a big star this day.
Yeah, didn't you meet Tom Berenger, Levi?
I did actually. I mean, it was such a weird experience because we were in Pier, doing a movie, but it was like in a guy's backyard. So I'm just like in a guy's backyard with Tom Berenger shooting this
I've
World War
I've
II movie.
I've looked at Tom Berenger's filmography recently, and it seems like in the last couple of years he's done a lot of like straight to DVD release type films.
Oh yeah,
So that sounds like it kind of tracks, which is honestly shocking to me considering like obviously he has this role. He has like probably the best character in the film Gettysburg, or he has the best acting in the movie Gettysburg, I thought. And then you see him do stuff like Sniper 3 and it's like, what are you doing, dude? Like
yeah. I think
He's
ours,
bored.
the movie it was like a World War II movie. It was over the Battle of the Bulge. I think it was called Winter War, Battle of the Bulge.
and where are those goddamn panzers?
Dude, that was so legendary. Hearing Tom Berenger shout about Panzer tanks, bro. That that's a memory I won't forget.
Hey, Levi, remember that time Tom Berenger came to Pier and started ransacking us for information about the Viet Cong movements?
Yeah.
And he held a gun to my head, screaming, "You lie!" All great times.
Yeah, I didn't like really enjoy having to dance while he shot at me. That wasn't fun.
or when he caved my head in.
Oh Jesus. That
I
scene was
think
particularly crazy.
Yeah.
oh
Oof.
yeah, it's
Like
definitely it was definitely a hard scene to watch, but like it's so good because I think that scene if it, like obviously there's the infamous, Willem
caving.
Dafoe being
Oh,
shot a billion times scene that is obviously the movie poster. But I
dude, that
think if we
it's essentially like when Aragorn, or not Aragorn, when Boromir gets taken out by the arrows in Lord of the Rings. It's the same. Yeah, how they just slow mo.
yeah,
So
but I mean if you were to take like one scene out of this entire film that pretty much like sums up the entire movie and the point that the movie's trying to get across, the burning of the village is like I think that's point blank what we're going for here because it's very obviously meant to be a nod to like the Miley massacre.
yup.
Um,
Oh my.
so like that entire scene is super hard, but it's also it's hard to look away because you see all the different like internal conflicts that like Charlie Sheen is going through with
It
like his like first he feels that extreme anger and is committing a war crime to I'm going to prevent a rape. Like he
yeah.
goes one end of the spectrum to the other like super quick.
Yeah,
It
for
is
full range of the
his
emotions.
full blown snapping point of Sheen's character is, yeah, she's a human being. That part. Uh, crazy story about the Melee massacre. Like they actually had Hueys flying over that, and the commander, like not the commander, but the guy on the radio on the Hueys was like transmitting, like, "What's going on down there? It looks like they're just killing everyone." Not getting any signal back.
Yeah. One guy was convicted after that entire thing, and even he got a commuted sentence because there truly is no justice in this world.
Didn't he get? I thought he got scapegoated too because he like tried to.
Yeah, he was the patsy.
Didn't he try to stop it? Or I might
I
be
don't
mis.
I don't remember.
I don't know. I
I
don't
mean,
want
it sounds
to
like
misconstrue any of that.
That wouldn't
But
surprise me, but usually people who try to stop atrocities are kind of thrown under the bus in the moment.
no good deed.
It's actually kind of interesting because like granted this is off topic a bit, but just in the whole like massacre conversation, um have you guys ever heard of the like Sand Creek massacre?
I think I have.
So
Sand Creek.
it's like it's one of I think it might be bigger than Wounded Knee.
Oh
It's
wait,
like
yeah.
it's
I
like
I learned about
it
this in
is
history class.
it is Wounded Knee equivalent. Just to for the sake of us not spending 20 minutes looking it up, but um, it occurred here in Colorado, and there were three cavalry regiments: the first, second, and third U.S. or not the U.S. Colorado Cavalry. And God, which one was um, the first and second Colorado Cavalry existed like throughout the entire Civil War, and the massacre occurred right at the end of the Civil War. And the third Colorado Cavalry was like it was called a 100-day regiment because everybody who signed up for it only had a 100-day term for it, which was kind of common in the Civil War. Um, anyways, the third Colorado was the one that committed the atrocity. The first and second, their leaders refused to participate and actually like some of the men from those regiments actually set up skirmish lines against the other cavalry guys to like help get some people
Try
to
to
escape.
screen the survivors.
Yeah. And so a couple of years ago, the first and second Colorado Cavalry had a statue in downtown Denver, and it was commemorating like first dedicated to the first and second Colorado Cavalry for defending Colorado during the Civil War. And everybody demanded that it got torn down because they're like, they committed the massacre. And it's like, no, they didn't. They were adjacent and like they were there and some of them tried to stop it, but they like those two regiments weren't the ones who did the shit, but down the statue came anyways.
Yeah, context is lost upon those in the moment, to say the least.
Anyways, I digress.
Yeah.
We do that a lot. We can have a bit of digression as a treat.
Digression? Is that a digression?
It is now.
No, fair enough.
Yeah, who's gonna stop me? You?
I don't know. There's probably a way for me to kick you off of this. Let me see.
It is a
I'll
word.
try.
Haha.
Job security.
Well, that sure did show me. So, Levi, what did you think of this film?
I thought it was a great film. Like Jack said, one of my favorite war movies. Um, yeah, like we were saying, it's just insane how so many of these characters went on to play like, and particularly like so many of them ended up on Scrubs, like William Dafoe, John C. McGinney.
Wait, Willem Dafoe's on Scrubs?
Oh no, I'm mistaken. Sorry,
Oh,
sorry, but yeah, I was thinking of Scrubs because of the sergeant, but for some reason I put. But yeah, um, I think it's like I said in the beginning. It's just a film about the morality of man, and courage is a real key theme throughout the movie. That's what I like about it too. Like you have courage in both Defoe's character and Behringer's character. It's like two versions of them. One's like a hard, like the hardcore stereotypical killer warrior type. The other has their morality. And then I forget whose theory on war this was, but basically in war you have to forego morality if you're going to be in war, otherwise you're going to lose. But like this movie really shows the flaws in that um philosophy, I guess. So that's what I like about it.
This is definitely, I don't know if cerebral is the right word for it, but like there's different ways you can obviously watch this film. And if you go into it as just like, oh cool, shoot 'em up war movie, I think it can be a little disappointing. Like I had like I started this movie, got about 20 minutes into it, and I'm like, I wasn't enjoying it, and I was like, I stepped away for a couple minutes, and I came back, and like I restarted the film, and I re-looked at it through the framework of like, okay, I'm going to like purposely try and overanalyze everything in this, and like I'm not saying you have to do that to enjoy this film, but for me, that's where I started enjoying it more, where it's like, oh, this is, imagery supposed to be like Willem Dafoe's Christ like, or like this entire thing is an allegory for the like, home front argument of, you know, for or against this war or the morality of war. Like it very much is a more enjoyable film for me, at least, if you do big picture idea of like, you know, okay, the dope smoking hippie squad is obviously the dope smoking hippies who are against war versus like Sergeant Barnes, who is like, America, fuck yeah. Um,
He's just roided out drinking beer.
yeah,
America.
it was just one of those things where it's like if you're in it solely for the firefights, like you're going to be disappointed. But like if you can appreciate it as like a commentary of what the U.S. was as a whole at the time, then I think it was good. It was a very good film.
That's like a great point because, like you said, it's for a war movie. There's not. It's um. God, I always forget the director's name. I said it earlier, but
Oliver Stone.
Oliver Stone, like he says, war movies today they're kind of over the top in the sense they like get Hollywooded up. This one, there's not a whole lot of spectacle. But yeah, like you said, if you pay attention, just like that opening scene with Taylor getting into camp, and just the first thing he sees is bodies coming off a truck. It just like right out the gate, your perception of, or I should say his perception, but I mean we're the audience through his eyes. But anyways, it's you just that whole I'm gonna go in to do my service, all this stuff, and you just slowly watch it. You see it slowly grinded down to what the fuck are we doing?
Right.
A, a bit of the symbolism, I'll say it was heavy-handed. Although I did have to have this pointed out to me, the main protagonist's name is Private Chris Taylor. Chris Taylor, Chris T, Christ, and he talks of his two commanding officers like their fathers. One obviously being a stand-in for the devil, and the other being God.
Ooh, that's a nice little
In the temptations of Christ.
Hmm.
kind of
That
like the good and bad conscious on your shoulder.
And the one thing I remember from Bible school is that chapter of the Bible where Jesus chills with the devil in the desert, and the devil's like, "Come on, man, sin. It's what all the cool kids are doing." I'm paraphrasing, of course,
It's basically.
No, that was pretty accurate if you ask me.
but yeah, but instead of a
It's,
desert, it's a jaunt through the Vietnamese jungle.
and then you
Yeah,
have the good angel Kronk being like, no, 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 he's got a point.
The good, the good angel Willem Dafoe saying, "You don't have to kill the civilians." Yeah.
I I love Sergeant Elias in this. Like he, he's probably like the one character you can get on board with, like you can sympathize with, because I feel like every other person that we see in this film is kind of like they all have their faults, but obviously like Elias is kind of, I mean, besides being a dope smoking hippie, like he
he's the
he
one guy
is,
with human morality.
yeah, he's the leader of the quote unquote good camp in this film.
Right. After that, after that, after the village incident, they split into those two camps, and it's just
What
not
I
good.
what I really found interesting is like going into like the big picture of like mirroring like America at home is, the focus we get of the African American soldiers who kind of have their own group going on too, and it was kind of groundbreaking for this film to have entire scenes where it's just the African American guys talking to each other, like
Hmm.
they're not just like side set pieces, or they're not just ancillary characters. Like they play their own role in this film too, which for like mid 80s, yeah, isn't as impressive, but like that's still a pretty big leap forward as far
Yeah.
as Hollywood speaks. But I love their little group too, because they are like, for me, my thought process on it is like, oh, these guys represent, you know kind of what African Americans in the U.S. were experiencing at this time, which is like they're obviously going through the civil rights movement, so it's like they have their own like whole ball of issues that they're having to deal with, while also trying to fit into the dichotomy of the good or the bad squad.
And yeah, it was complex. Like they had various opinions. Like they were complicated. Like yeah, a lot of them were against Barnes, but then there's that one guy that was like, okay, I know he's kind of fucked in the head, but he's carried us this far, and he's probably our best chance of getting out of here alive. And all the others are like, oh no, fuck that. But and then others are like, oh, he has a point.
Well,
And
yeah, like
go ahead.
remember how I said it played like the two camps? It's like both characters and or both leaders have their own version of courage that the men follow. That's kind of like you're saying, yeah. Like with Barnes, yeah, he's fucked in the head, but his courage lies in being the most capable soldier there. Like of anyone that could survive, I mean,
He's
should
been
have.
shot 8 times, man.
Yeah,
That mean anything to you?
Yeah,
and
raw.
then you see Defoe's courage come out to not commit war crimes.
So brave. But
So brave, so stunning.
shit, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, what a lot of people don't realize is just how many Black Americans served in this war. I think it was
Yeah, it
something
is.
like upwards of 33% of those who served were Black, compared to 11% of the population at the time that was Black. It's almost like they disproportionately drafted poor people to fight this war.
Have you ever like talked to a Vietnam vet about this movie?
No, can't say I
I
have.
I did one time, but I'll let you continue your point before I tell my story about it.
Well, the two I've talked to, one of them was my great uncle. He said it was like the most accurate portrayal, and then the other one had mixed emotions about it. He was so I was just curious if you guys had any anecdotal stories.
Yeah, so like and I've told stories about this individual before, but I knew a guy. His name was Bob. and he was my scoutmaster for the longest time. And he served in Vietnam. He earned a Bronze Star while he was there. Um, he also was a drill instructor at Paris Island at the same time that Arlie Ermy was.
That's
Oh.
wild.
Yeah, it made for some great uh, leadership moments in my childhood. Um,
Yeah, you had a drill sergeant for a scoutmaster, or a, you know.
like I remember there was like we did this thing. It was called we're trying to or it wasn't like a merit badge or anything, but it was like an award that was specific to our like region or area. And it's called the Red Flannel Award. And basically, you get a fun little patch that says I was stupid and went camping outside when it was like 0 degrees.
Oh yeah.
It's like, okay, so cool. We're going to build some snow shelters and freeze our ass off for a weekend.
What is up with
Um,
Boy Scouts and camping below sub-zero temperatures?
I don't know. I feel like it was a good experience.
No,
Like
Made me
man,
the
hindsight.
man I am
I
today.
loved all my camp, like all my camping. They were called freezeries where I was at in Virginia for our camp. But yeah,
Freezeries.
yeah, that's what they were called. We had freezeries and camperies. Camperies were in the spring. Freezeries were in the winter.
We used to have fisheries where we would go I where we would go ice fishing,
Nice.
and
That
then
sounds pretty dope, though.
we would also like at the fishery we would also do like a Klondike Derby where we had like snow
Oh,
dog sleds,
yup.
but no
Yeah,
snow dogs.
we were the dogs.
Yeah.
I remember the Klondike Derby days. Those were kind of cool though. Like getting to build the sled was fun at least.
Oh yeah. There was tons of great stuff about it. But anyways, we were doing this red flannel camp out, and it was probably like 3 or 4 in the morning, and like my snow shelter was I built up like a little snow wall, and then I just put my sleeping bag in front of this snow wall, and then I built a fire in front of me so that like the fire would just bounce off the snow wall like radiant heat and whatever. And so like I wasn't really sleeping all night. Like every like 30 minutes I was tossing like another log on the fire.
Hmm.
And like I said, 3 or 4 in the morning, I hear some rustling followed up by like the longest string of swear words I have ever heard in my life. And it was like it made sense too. It wasn't just like the word fuck 17 times in a row. It was like motherfucking cut
What?
and I see Bob just burst out into the open. He's wearing his long johns and he's just chucking shit out of his shelter. And I was like, you good, Bob? And come to find out, he was like 70 something years old at this point, and he's like, he had this idea, or he would do this thing where he's like, I'm not getting out of bed in the middle of the night to have to take a piss. So he got one of
Oh
those
no.
like hospital plastic urinal things with like a cap on it, so he wouldn't have to get out of bed. Well, he did his business, but it was so cold outside that the fucking plastic shattered as he was doing it.
That's
And
terrible. Just a piss grenade.
yeah, and like, I had never seen him angrier in my entire life, and I was just like, I'm gonna roll over now and pretend like I didn't see that shit.
It was just a bad dream.
Anyways, like I said, he was a Vietnam vet, and I remember like for Veterans Day one time, our high school for Veterans Day, we would have like a Veterans Day assembly and whatnot, but we would also there would be a couple of local vets from the VFW who would come in to like history class and just like tell their stories. And Bob was one of these individuals one year, which I was like, I don't know who selected him to come in and talk, but somebody in my class, I can't remember. They're like, they're like, "Do you regret having been over there?" And he like is like,
Oh
"Absolutely
man.
not." He's like, "Nope, we did the right thing. We were trying to give those people a chance at freedom." Da, da, da. And I was like, "But we lost."
Hmm.
Did you
Also the
tell
war
him that?
crimes. No,
No.
I valued my life. Um,
You know, it's some
no, but I can appreciate it. Like,
some vets
eh,
are, yeah, I can't even hate on that. Like if you went over there and you had to, like, I wouldn't even question what you had to say about it.
no, yeah, like he obviously went through stuff when he was over there, and like even if America didn't win the Vietnam War, like he still believed in the like it's kind of like how it was demonstrated in this film where, Elias's act is like, "Do you believe in what we're doing here?" He's like, 65, 66, yeah, but now I don't know. So it's, I think it depends at what point you're there and what you see and what you're doing, I think is a big determinant in like whether you believed in the mission or not. Like this movie,
Yeah,
honestly, it made me think like my dad, he's a 25-year Air Force vet, and he did Panama, he did first Gulf War, he did Iraq, Afghanistan, just like everywhere and anywhere in the like in the 90s and 2000s. And he's told me some stories about like the stuff that he's done, but I've never had that like sit down conversation where I've picked his brain about, obviously we're out of Iraq now, we're out of Afghanistan now, and he's told me a couple of stories about his time when he was there, but I've never asked him what he thinks like now that we are out of those two countries, like what does he think of that war in general, because like I think we're kind of in that transitory period now that people were in when this movie came out after Vietnam, because this movie came out like about 10 years after Vietnam ended. So the wounds were still very fresh.
Hmm.
mhm.
Um, and a lot of a lot of reckoning hadn't been done yet. So I think this movie is really great for the fact that it still can be topical in those regards where it's like I'm now thinking about this and it's like, okay, when and where and how do I have this conversation with my dad? Because I'm genuinely curious, because when my dad was in Iraq and Afghanistan, it was the early days, 02, 03, 04, like pre-surge and all that stuff. Like
Right.
I genuinely would greatly like to know what his opinion on the whole thing is now that we have a little bit of space past it.
Yeah, a little. Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe just talk to him someday and ask him, like, you. I mean, I don't know. There's obviously a way to word it. I'm not going to be able to come up with it on the fly, but yeah. Um, my dad was is a naval vet. He was in for like 26 years, so he had seen. Um,
He saw a lot of water, didn't he?
oh yeah, he was all over the goddamn place. Um, I'm trying to think of like his earliest cruise that I can remember. I think, well, this would have been before I was born, but the Yugoslav wars. That's the only one he's really talked about. He
Oh, like
said,
Bosnia and stuff.
yeah, Bosnia, Croatia, all those countries splitting off. Was it Slovenia
Yeah.
that was the first one that broke off? But I guess
Yeah,
that's not important.
there was a lot of issues with a lot of those countries when the
Yeah, we'd be here for like 2 hours
USSR
getting into all
dissolved.
that. But
That's another
basically,
day. That's when we review Behind Enemy Lines. We can talk about Bosnia.
sick. Well,
Sick.
basically that was the
Me.
only one that he just told me like all the cool stories, like, yeah, I flew over the pyramids in these helos with Enter Sandman playing by Metallica. Like
Fuck yeah.
that sounds pretty badass, I can't lie.
Well, like the last time I sat down and my dad is always more apt to tell me stories after we start drinking together. Um, but the last time we sat down and had drinks, he was telling me about when he was in Panama. So his squadron actually uh, did the parachute drops for the airborne divisions. Um, and he was telling me, he's like, "Hey, do you remember that scene in Band of Brothers, uh, like from episode 2 when they're invading Normandy and you see all the tracer fire and like the explosions in the air?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "That's what Panama looked like." I'm like, "Jesus Christ, Dad!" Like,
Well, fuck, I'm
but
glad. I'm glad you made it. Shit. Ah.
but yeah, he tells me like that's one of those like, holy shit, that's a fucking cool story. But you never think to ask like, so what'd you think about the U.S. going in and deposing a dictator for
Yeah,
reasons?
the politics of it, that's the hard part to get into. Like, I couldn't, because to my dad, Bush was his, that was his president.
His boy?
That was his boy. Like, regardless, he doesn't like Cheney at all, but he likes Bush. So,
Does
like, it's
anybody?
weird. Well, I mean, yeah, you find out what, because like when you were talking about asking your dad about the Middle Eastern conflicts or wars, yeah, my dad he thinks it was a waste of time. It was all corporate interests. He's not very fond of those wars. Like, yeah, he loves the country and he loves. He was definitely all boots on the ground when 9/11 happened, but now that he looks back on it, he'll tell me like it turned out to be like a waste of time in the end, or some of it just kind of backfired, kind of. But yeah.
Question
Answer.
to get us back on topic.
Yeah.
Um, was Barnes always evil, or did the experiences he have in war change him? And did he genuinely care about the men under his command, or were they just disposable tools to him?
I think I think
That,
Barnes I think both Barnes and Elias were probably on, like, imagine we have bad squad on one end of the spectrum and good squad on the other end of the spectrum. I would say they both probably started on their own respective ends of those spectrum, but probably closer to the center. And then
yeah.
experiences drove them to the more extreme aspects of them. But
That's the yeah.
I don't think Barnes was like, man, I don't know what I'm doing here. And then it's like, fucking kill them all.
Yeah. In a situation like war, that'll drive a person to the extreme end of whatever they believe in. Um,
And
as far as like if he cared about his men, I think he cared about his men unless well unless he perceived them to betray him.
yeah, because if he didn't care about his men at all, then he wouldn't have gone ape shit on the villagers, would he?
That's what I was about to bring up next. Like what led to the village being burned down?
Yeah, like nobody told him to do that. He just did it when one of his homies was gutted.
I mean, with
Right.
that, like there's this great interview from a Vietnam vet on YouTube, but he talks about like as the months went by, your friends would be shot by sniper fire, your friends would die by random explosives. Like people would die around you, but you wouldn't know who to shoot at or who to fight back against. So next thing you know, you'd be pulling into a village and the village burning scene would take place. And in the end, he said, like, the best recruiting for Viet Cong was the U.S. Marines. They would just walk into a village and then all the survivors were fresh recruits.
I have heard that. I have seen that interview. You're the one. Yeah, you sent it to me.
Yeah.
Man, you know he's talking about some deep shit when he lights a cigarette and doesn't smoke it.
Yeah. It's a pretty harrowing interview.
Yeah.
In the end, he basically said, like, you want to ask questions, but you get up to the door, you open it, and you kind of take a peek inside, and then you see a whole just nothing but dark, horrible things, and then you don't want to ask anymore. You just want to slowly shut it and then walk away.
You
Oof.
didn't see anything.
Yeah.
I
That
think. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna quote the movie, like, oh yeah, that village stood for probably 1,000 years before the day we came to it. They didn't know we were coming that day, but if they did, they would have run. Anyway, you were saying,
I mean, speaking of running, I think it'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the like most noticeable moment in this entire film, or at least the one that's parodied. It's literally the film poster. But how did you feel during the scene where Elias is fragged and then ultimately is seen getting shot 4 billion times?
man, I
Well,
like.
I'll
Go
let
ahead.
Jack go Jack can go first.
Okay, I like Adagio for strings. I really do, but I just don't think I would have used it 4 times in the same movie. But
Yeah,
and yeah,
like every time you're supposed to feel sad.
that is an iconic scene of him reaching towards the sky before ultimately dying.
Yeah, the reason I likened it to Boromir's death earlier was just I guess that's kind of how I reacted to both scenes, or I had the same reaction to both scenes. It was just like because right before he gets shot, Barnes looks at him, gives him like this look, like, "Hey, I got you," and then he just fucking shoots him. I guess uh, it was just shocking and harrowing, to say the least.
I guess, to what degree do you like, and then granted, I didn't do any research on this part of it, but like to what degree do you think, like, we hear them talking about fragging all the time, and obviously it's happened in like every conflict ever, but this movie would make you believe that like fragging is an option that is constantly on the table for you, like,
Oh yeah, just how much they talk about fragging each other.
I
yeah.
remember
Yeah,
I remember reading some estimate that upwards of 20% of all officer deaths were suspected fraggings.
yeah, in Vietnam, yeah, that's a fact.
So
Speaking of
it's not
leadership,
that far fetched then.
no, I would say no. With how things were, that was probably the worst led era in U.S. Army and Marine, just military history. Like after that war, we had a total reassessment and reevaluation of military structure. So many people got fired. So many court martials got handed out. So many like that war is part of, well, I mean, you probably shouldn't be getting high and shooting guns, but that war is part of the reason why we're not allowed.
Says you.
Yeah. But yeah, that's part of the reason it got banned in the army.
Then because
Uh,
Nixon really wasn't cool.
yeah.
What do you mean Nixon wasn't cool?
Anyways,
No, no, Nixon. Yeah, Nixon. Yeah,
Richard Nixon, our greatest president. You got that right, Daddy-O.
yeah.
I love that he cheated at an election that he like won in a landslide.
Yeah, that he didn't even need to cheat.
Oh my
Like, how
god.
fucking
I
stupid do you have to be?
I can't repeat it on this podcast, but he does have one of my favorite presidential quotes of all time.
Know exactly it's one of the best
Our
places of all time.
our our Bohemian Grove, which I've known to attend from time to time, it's the F word expletive-ist thing you've ever
Bundle of
seen.
sticks.
It's the goddamn bundle of stickest thing you've ever seen.
Oh man.
Oh man,
Wait, that is like
That's
an
my
actual
president.
out in the that's an
it's
actual out in the
recorded.
air president. Oh. Well, every
It's on
president
YouTube.
said I was gonna say every president said fucked up shit like on recording. I'm curious if he said it like just out on the lawn in front of a reporter or some shit.
It was definitely on the record, but I don't know if he was in an interview or what. I think he was though.
It's just The end of a presidential address. I'm sorry. All right, I'm done derailing this.
I can't,
Well,
one more, but
well, I was going to say Lyndon Johnson has probably the worst one I've
oh
ever
my
heard.
god.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Like I'll give him credit. He passed the Civil Rights Bill, but
that's the
also he
crazy thing
referred to
about
the
it.
Civil Rights Bill as the N-word bill. Like,
And
Yeah.
didn't he trick basically the entire South into voting for it because hey, this one doesn't matter. We can let this one go through. It's the next one that I really need your support on. And then he just abandoned them.
yeah. But I mean, at least he was like, he kept to his word and like continued JFK's like vision as far as that went.
Yeah.
Yeah. God,
Is
there was
the official position of this podcast that we do not support Lyndon B. Johnson. Anywho,
I've always wanted Buck Strickland for president.
Holy crap! Yeah.
We do, however, support King of the Hill, so we're conflicted.
we do.
Old top.
Where did they get all the pot? Does pot grow in Vietnam?
Yeah.
It's a
I'm
pretty good
stupid. I'm
climate for
sorry.
it.
Yeah, it's hot, humid.
Well, I'm sorry. It goes back to our cocoa discussion earlier, where it's like, yeah, the climate's good for it. Doesn't necessarily mean that they could or would.
So I actually studied this in college. So pot is a good way to unwind, right? Especially when you're, say, for example, in a jungle when you can die any second and you get back to base. You know, it just helps you calm down.
I don't know, man.
However,
Dare told
what?
me that I was going to become addicted to heroin if I tried pot.
I was getting to that. Fuck you. Anyway,
Okay.
so anyway, they smoked a ton of it to, you know, unwind and just relax and just talk about whatever, man. And then around the time this movie takes place, I think it was like 68, they started cracking down on it. So then they switched to an alternative that's easier to hide called heroin. Because, you know, it doesn't leave a smell and you just inject it and yeah.
I just feel sad all the time now.
Hey man, it relaxes you. Sometimes too much.
You know, this wouldn't have been an issue if they took the Chicky Donahue approach to it and just let them have all the PBRs in the world.
Yeah, some peevers. I don't know
I
if
don't
you
know.
saw.
Or
I don't know if you
continue.
watched that episode, Levi, but this isn't our first Vietnam War movie. The first one was the greatest beer run ever.
I think this is our second one.
Yeah, this is the second one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be. But anyway, yeah, the greatest beer run with Zac Efron. Strongly recommend that movie.
Yeah, I know the story of it, but I haven't seen the movie. I didn't know Zac Efron was in it. That's kind of
It's pre-plastic surgery Zac Efron, so he's still kind of hot.
Wait, when did he get plastic surgery?
Bro,
Pretty
you're telling
recently.
me Zac Efron's not hot?
I check his most recent photos.
Oh, okay.
I'll just call him up, ask him.
Yeah.
Me and him are tight.
Anyway, I will say, like, I appreciate what this film was doing, and it was very groundbreaking for its time. But I honestly felt like Greatest Beer Run Ever did a better job of that, like, is Vietnam right debate. And I don't know what you think about that, Jack.
It's a complicated issue. I know that's a cop-out answer, but man, it's...
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Like,
what I think my beef with this film is that so like Oliver Stone was literally a student of Martin Scorsese, and if ever there was a Vietnam film that looks like it was produced by like a film school student, I think Platoon fits that mold. But I think that also because he's very much trying to be artistic and like look at the symbolism, but also I think this film suffers from what Run Silent, Run Deep did, which is this is one of the first serious and well received Vietnam War films to be produced. And it literally sets the mold for Vietnam War movie tropes. Like the amount of times that this film is referenced in popular culture or spoofs have been done of it. I mean, there's a Tropic Thunder, a super popular comedy movie, is literally an entire spoof of this film.
Well, it also spoofs basically every Vietnam War movie ever made too, like
Right, but I mean,
Apocalypse Now.
but you get where and Apocalypse Now came out before this, but like
It did.
Apocalypse Now, yeah, it
Oh,
was
thought it came out like a year or two after. Maybe I'm
like
wrong.
5 or 6 years beforehand.
Huh. Interesting. Anyway,
Well, to add to that, I would say the triad of movies in Full Metal Jacket, Apocalypse Now, and Platoon, that's, like you said, what set the tone for Vietnam War movies going forward, I guess.
It's, like I said, people kind of dunk on Run Silent, Run Deep a little bit because it's like filled with tropes, but like Run Silent, Run Deep literally
it's
created the submarine movie genre.
yeah, it's the codifier. What was I gonna say?
But
And
I like your analogy, Levi, that Platoon is in the holy trinity of Vietnam War movies.
yeah, the
Yeah.
Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost.
Well, I mean, they really, what am I trying to say? They really just show a great perspective from their characters, reflecting it onto what all the soldiers went through in that war, I guess. Like, it does a good job of showing, like, just how a person gets transformed by war, and that war particularly.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, you said earlier that this movie was like, not you, Levi, you, John, you said this movie was like, fuck, I can't even think straight tonight. An art student's movie or something.
Yeah, that's the vibe I got from it.
I mean, I got to give this movie credit, and I got to disagree with you on that because this filming took place in the Philippines, which geographically isn't that close to Vietnam. And being
I
facetious, yes, it
mean,
is.
In relation to a lot of other countries, yeah, it's pretty.
But and which, yeah, it's not Vietnam, but also on one hand, you also have Full Metal Jacket, which was filmed in fucking United Kingdom.
that's fair. Something tells me the Vietnamese weren't really ready for us to be making Vietnam movies in Vietnam yet at this point.
I bet there was a fresh-faced young Vietnamese actor that was excited to get his start in the film business, and then for the next 20 or 30 years he was cast as Viet Cong numbers 3 through 4. Sort of like that young German actor that was excited to start his career, then ended up getting cast as Nazis the rest of his life.
You know what? If it pays the bills.
I suppose it's unlucky, but
I I remember reading Guinness Book of World Records many years ago, and literally the most typecasted actor in history is just some random Indian dude that keeps getting cast as police officers, and he's played a police officer over 120 times in various Bollywood movies. So I wonder, like, what's the record for being cast as a Nazi or a Viet Cong or something?
Probably John Wayne as a cowboy or something.
Oh, but he was also a submarine commander and a marine
Paratrooper
and a
yeah, I was
paratrooper
about to say Green
and a
Beret.
Mongolian leader.
for some fucking reason.
We really needed that one, okay?
I mean, it was the one that killed him.
Ugh.
Didn't even
Yeah.
try to change his accent in the slightest.
I mean, look what we did to Bruce Lee. I mean, we had to pull the Enter the Dragon out of him.
Just yank it out. Actually, wait. Is that a war movie?
No, no. I mean, I guess if
John?
you look at it from the perspective that Bruce Lee is at war with everybody he comes in contact with.
Well, he's at
Uh,
war with Chuck
That's like say,
Norris.
that's like saying any Liam Neeson movie is a war movie because he's at war. He's at war with the world.
I'm at
Why do
war
people?
with wolves now.
Why do people keep trying to steal his daughter? Didn't they learn after taking 1 and 2? Like, why is there
Dude,
taking 3?
that's what I wanted to know. Like, why was there so many Taken sequels? It's just
Greed. The
My
God.
favorite one that I've watched recently is he's like an ice road trucker, and it turns into this like shootout film for
oh
some
god,
reason.
nice.
But I learned a very sad fact about Liam Neeson, which I love Liam Neeson. Um, I think he's had some terrific roles in his film career, but the reason he's in so many of these like shitty movies is literally like I forget how long ago, but like his wife passed away and he just like he suffers like immense grief from it. And so he signs up for literally every film project he can because working keeps his mind off of being sad.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's
Fuck,
fucking
man.
that's fucking hardcore. Why don't they make that into a movie?
Good lord, yeah, man.
I liked I liked his role in Ted. Now, if I'm to be believed, the Lucky Charms are for children, or these tricks are for kids, right? Yeah, that's what the advertisement said. And if I were to purchase this box of tricks, I won't be followed home, will I? No. Just intense buying tricks.
He
Jesus
stuffs
Christ.
it into his coat pocket as he walks out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or that episode of Family Guy where he beats the shit out of Peter.
So prime Liam Neeson versus prime Clint Eastwood. Who you got?
Like, what's their best role each?
No, like can they fight each other? I think is that what you're asking?
Well, here, what's their best role, and then in
That's
a
subjective.
in a gunfight where they both have time to prepare for one another.
Mm, wasn't Liam Neeson a Highlander?
But
I don't know.
Clint Eastwood was a cowboy,
And a San Francisco cop.
and he fought in the Korean War.
Oh yeah, that's right, Gran Torino.
So here, I'll go with Dirty Harry is probably peak Clint Eastwood fighting ability,
Filthy Harold.
right? But Liam Neeson. That's the thing is like probably taking Liam Neeson has probably got to be his like because that's literally what set the mold for him being like
Wait, wait, wait,
the
wait, 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 wait. I got Qui-Gon Jinn.
Qui-Gon Jinn Liam
So
Neeson.
yeah, he would win just
Yeah,
on that
absolutely.
alone.
God damn it, that's cheating. You can't use the Force.
Okay, fine. No Qui-Gon Jinn.
Oh,
Well, it's
shit.
not fair
Why
because
did we
like
forget?
see
That's
Liam Neeson has a lot of great like sword films too. Like he was in Kingdom of Heaven. Like
Oh
so he's a
yeah,
good
that's right. He's the
sword.
guy that got shot in the balls, wasn't he?
Yeah, with an arrow for 2 days.
And he still
Um,
fought.
you know what? I think this would make for a great bonus reel. We should have
Yes.
like a we should do like a March Madness bonus reel where we pit all the
Just
actors
battles.
together.
Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
we could even do it on our Instagram. Let people vote.
So God. So who played the lieutenant? Was that Johnny Depp's character?
What?
In Platoon? Who? I know Johnny Depp was in it, but I can't remember who his
Johnny
character
Depp
was.
was in this?
Yes, he
Yeah.
was.
What the fuck?
Dude, this film literally has everybody in it.
Oh, okay.
Where the fuck was he in it?
Yeah, there's so many random like big name
Lerner.
actors in this.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure Lerner gets ganked in that one ambush.
Well, yeah, he gets torn up, but he doesn't die. He gets sent to medical, and we don't know what happens after that. Okay, so yeah, that's So that's who Depp's character was. Okay.
I did not know that, and I've seen this like 4 or 5 goddamn times.
Well, I was gonna say, like, another thing with this movie, a good job it does portraying is just how leadership actually worked in that, and
Oh,
pretty
son
much
of a
in the
bitch!
army,
That
I would argue. Like, you got your lieutenants, who's yeah, they're technically leadership, but the sergeants are the ones calling the
Oh,
shots.
isn't that
son of a
how it is in
bitch!
real
That
life?
That's what
that
I'm saying.
is
Like, that's pretty much how it is to this day. But and then
We will let you have the impression that you're in charge.
yeah, because I mean, technically, the lieutenant, it's usually a second lieutenant, so the lowest officer rank there is. It's usually a second lieutenant, and they're the technical platoon leader, like they're the officer of the platoon. But then you have the platoon sergeant, and they're usually a staff sergeant, so an E6. They're um or no, I think E5 actually. I take that back. E5. But yeah, they're the ones telling everybody what to do and telling everybody what's what. Because I mean, in reality, they're the ones that have been through all this shit, have gone through what these soldiers have gone through. And it's kind of crazy too. Like you when with the whole village burning scene, the lieutenant tries to wants to do something, I guess, but is ultimately overpowered by Barnes. And then Taylor steps up, oh Charlie.
Tunnel rat.
huh? Holy shit!
I I love. I was checking the IMDb on this, and I was just doing some, minor like, ancillary additional fact looking, and I love that there's a pedant out there that was like, uh, Willem Dafoe or Sergeant Elias never would have been able to have tunnel rat because the average tunnel rat in Vietnam was under 5'6", and he's like
Mm,
5'10".
yeah, they
I was
were
like,
really.
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
you,
Go
you
ahead.
had to be like a tiny person to be a tunnel rat.
Well, let's look at Hanks from Forrest Gump. All right, Gump, go clear that tunnel out.
Couldn't fit in it.
Yeah, just his ass is hanging out.
But I suppose if needs must, and the guy who usually does it got shanked.
That's fair. Well,
Uh,
Jack, what are you drinking this evening?
Drinking eggnog mixed with whiskey.
Nice. Levi,
It's not healthy for you, but fuck you.
I'm just
would you?
drinking water. I long day. I don't think I could have a fair drink right now. It'd take me out.
Understandable. What you
I'm
drinking,
cur-
DP?
I'm currently drinking through my abnormally large straw. Um, Sprite and uh, Captain Morgan,
Mm, not bad.
the white rum, that is. Just gives a little kick to the Sprite.
Is it McDonald's Sprite or regular Sprite?
It is Sprite Zero from a bottle.
Ooh.
God damn, that's some gourmet shit right there.
Yeah.
Gotta watch
Fancy.
my gotta watch my hourglass figure. You laugh, but I'm going to be the center of attention at the beach this summer. So
Yeah, just
You're gonna
slaying
be
it.
something.
yeah, especially when I get that I'm just going to stop now.
Oh,
Anyway,
so what would you
anyways,
say was your, I guess, either your favorite or like the scene that stood out the most to you?
the scene that stood out the most to me is honestly, it's a collection of scenes, and it's whenever Charlie Sheen does his voiceover when he's writing his letters home to Grandma, and I keep thinking to myself like Grandma more than likely was alive World War II Korea, like probably, well, definitely was alive and probably would have been pen pals with somebody in the family who was in World War II or Korea, right? Um, or possibly even World War One, depending
I was
on.
going to bring that up.
So I generally found myself thinking more about Grandma than I did about Charlie Sheen's exposition about like, you're supposed to be focusing on like how the war is changing him and all of that stuff. But I just kept thinking to myself like, I wonder what Grandma's thinking, because she's probably read a letter from like her brother from World War One, who's like, I can't talk very much, but we're going over the top tomorrow. Pip pip, cheerio, love you. To we burnt a fucking Vietnamese village. I don't know how I feel about myself. Say hi to mom and dad. Like to imagine how much that woman's perception of war herself has probably changed
Well,
just from letters that she's received. I want that story, if we're being honest.
well, that's actually a great point to bring up, though, because like with Vietnam and like you said, the difference between World War One and Vietnam, like that's when American perception of war really started to understand what war was.
It was the first TV war.
Yeah, like that was the first war we had in color that we could see like all the shit we did.
Got canceled after 10 seasons.
Man,
I'm
I had
sorry.
hope for the character arcs too. I'll never forgive the network bosses,
It was low hanging fruit.
but it tasted sweet.
I just can't believe Iraq got renewed for like 15 seasons.
Oh my god, they just didn't know when to end. None of the characters were likable. It was super forced. All the plot lines were recycled from Vietnam.
And Afghanistan, like
Worst
22
spin-off
seasons,
ever.
really? That's almost as bad as The Simpsons. Like, we get it.
Yeah,
Worst
worst
sequel
spin-off
ever.
ever. Yeah,
God,
awful. But anyway, is it time for Rotten Tomatoes?
It is. So, Levi, we like to do a custom rating because stars are boring. So we usually do a scale of 1 to 5, and we choose some object or thing or idea that best represents this film. I'm open to suggestions because I didn't come prepared with a rating. Jack, do you have any ideas?
I was gonna say 1 to 5 instances of Christ imagery, but that's a mouthful.
Yeah, that's a bit much. Levi?
um, from a 1 to 5, a brand new swing line stapler.
What?
No, something really nice, I guess. It
One
that was a it was a Office Space reference, but like this
No.
dude's obsessed with the stapler. But anyways,
what 1 to 5 Willem Dafoe's.
yeah, this would be probably 5 William Defoe's for me.
1 to 5. Just Willem Dafoe. He is the metric.
Yep, I loves me some Willem Dafoe, so I'm gonna give this a 5 Willem Dafoe's out of 5.
All right. Any showing of the work for your 1 to 5 rating?
Like, just I like the movie. What more do you want from me?
Okay, fuck, Jesus,
What do you want me
Levi.
to? Do you want me to publish my
Well,
essay? Fuck,
I mean,
my thesis.
it's it's
Yes,
probably
I would like a dissertation from you sometime.
it's probably not my favorite war movie, but it's definitely my favorite like Vietnam War movie. Like as much as I love Full Metal Jacket, I don't know, just all the big name actors and all the just how the I like the pacing of the movie as compared to all the other ones as well. So yeah, that's why it's my favorite.
And are you giving it? Or how many Willem Dafoes are you giving it?
Oh yeah, I'd say 5 out of 5 Williams.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
I my score is going to be based on the fact that I recognize all the things that this film did and accomplished, and also the legacy it leaves. This is not my favorite film. Um, I found myself a little bored at times, and like I said earlier, I had to restart the film to put myself in the right mindset to appreciate it. So but because of all the things it does accomplish, and there's some genuinely great acting in this film, I'm going to say 4 Willem Dafoes, and then like one crushed Green Goblin Willem Dafoe.
Oh,
So it's
Peter.
like a 4.5, 4.7.
all right. Let's see what Rotten Tomatoes says. The tomometer says 89%, and the audience says 93%. I got to
Good
go with
Lord.
the audience on this one.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I think both of those ratings are fair. I think.
Yeah. There's, like we said a bunch of times before already, but it was the first. It really set the tone for Vietnam War movies going forward.
Yeah, and it really kicked off the reconciliation of the conflict after the fact. So it accomplishes a lot, and it was definitely revolutionary for its time. I just think
Well, yeah.
I
Another
it just it wasn't my favorite. It wasn't my jam, but I totally get where you guys are coming from.
one
I
thing
still
I
get still gave it a high rating. So
yeah. One thing I did forget to mention was like this movie. You guys probably know this, but it's based off a book, and the book is an account of all of Oliver Stone's experiences in Vietnam. Like he was a recruit that went over there, and these are, I mean, with some like names changed and yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the first movie to really show what the soldiers actually went through, because nobody, like, you had the TV, you had the films, but nobody knew what people felt, how they thought, what they experienced,
right.
why they came home the way they did.
No, it's definitely a powerful film, and it's definitely like thought provoking, which makes me hesitant to announce our next film. Jack, did you like our last foray with William Holden?
What?
Did you like our last little review of a film with William Holden in it?
Refresh my memory.
That would be The Horse Soldiers. He was
I mean,
the
not.
snarky doctor.
I mean, not really. I
Oh,
didn't even
okay.
remember who you were talking about. So was that tell you?
That's fair. Well, we're going to watch another William Holden film next week because it's my turn to pick. Uh, so next week we will be reviewing the classic POW film Stalag 17.
Never seen it.
You are in for a treat, and it's kind of timely too because it's almost a Christmas movie. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's placed during Christmas time, so
Okay.
Hun, I
I'm
almost got
hoping.
the tree set up. Do you have our Vietnam torture movie ready?
I'm hoping to see
hey,
some merriment.
I genuinely I watch this film every December, so I personally I greatly enjoy it. It is very silly though, and this is a film that inspired the TV series Hogan's Heroes, so that should kind of give you an idea of where we're headed with this. So
Mm.
Okay.
it's definitely it's no Platoon.
Well, okay. I'm hoping to see a lot of merriment in this movie, a lot of
You'll
mirth making. I'm sure it's very wholesome.
you'll get a couple of chuckles out of it.
It
Some
it
Nazis being deceived and all that good
that
stuff.
is funny.
It is.
Oh, I get it now because it's just the last movie we did had to do with deception and this. I see
I
it
mean,
now.
that wasn't really the goal I was going for, but
I see the parallels,
yes.
nonetheless. Well,
Anywho, do you have anything else, Jack?
I do not. Do you, Levi?
No, I mean, thanks for having me. That's all I really got to say. Appreciate you.
No
Well, thank you
problem.
for coming on. We would love to have you back sometime. Anywho, if you enjoyed this show, please leave a review. The stars do matter. You can find additional content from us on Instagram and Facebook at the Armchair Commanders Podcast. We also have a Discord under the same name. We'd love to have you join us there as well. We also have a YouTube channel called History Apprentice. If you go over there and give that a follow, it'd be greatly appreciated. Until next week, I've been John.
And I'm Jack.
I'm Levi.
And we will catch you later.
Bye.